I'm Willow, and the last time my family saw me, they called me a failure so loudly the neighbors stopped mowing their lawns to listen. 3 years later, I walked into my brother's engagement dinner wearing a plain black dress and a calm smile because I'd learned that revenge doesn't need glitter. My mother's laugh was the same, sharp and dismissive, until my brother's fiancée stared at me like she'd seen a ghost. Her fork clattered against her plate, her face drained of color, and she whispered, "That can't be you." And in that moment, I realized the universe had delivered my revenge right to the center of their table. The invitation arrived in an envelope so thick it felt expensive, like it had been hand-fed through a machine that smelled of polished wood and entitlement. The card inside was cream-colored and embossed with gold letters. Engagement dinner for Ethan and Chloe. Saturday, 7 p.m. Formal attire. At the bottom, in my mother's handwriting, tight and familiar, were the words, "Try to look presentable. This is important." I stared at that line for a long time, longer than I should have, not because I cared what she thought, but because I could still hear her voice saying it, like she lived in the bones of my memory. My hands didn't shake anymore when I thought of them. That was new. That was progress. Still, my chest tightened in that old place, the one that remembered being 19 and barefoot on the porch steps, listening to my family decide my worth like it was a group project I'd failed. Back then, I believed them. Now, I wasn't so sure. 3 years earlier, the night everything broke, I had come home with a folder clutched to my chest like it was proof I existed. Inside was an acceptance letter into a competitive apprenticeship program, one that offered training, certification, and a path out of the dead-end jobs my mother loved to call learning experiences. I walked into the kitchen expecting, for once, a little warmth. My mother, Diane, was at the counter slicing lemons with the precision of someone who enjoyed control. My father, Mark, sat at the table scrolling on his phone, and my brother Ethan leaned against the fridge, smirking like he already knew the punchline. I said it before I lost courage. I got in. Nobody looked up. I got accepted. I repeated, louder, into the program. It's full-time, and they pay you while you train. My mother finally glanced at me, eyes scanning the letter like it was a receipt she planned to return. Then she laughed. Not a soft laugh, not surprised, the kind that cut. "Oh, Willow," she said, wiping her hands on a towel. "That's adorable. You really think this is going to change anything?" My stomach dropped. "What?" Ethan snorted. "She thinks she's going to become something." "Like what? A CEO?" "It's not like that," I said. It's a start." My father cleared his throat without looking at me. "How much does it pay?" "Enough to move out eventually." "Enough to," Diane interrupted. "Move out?" She tilted her head like I'd said something offensive. "With what money? You can barely keep a job longer than 6 months." I swallowed. "Because I've been juggling 3 part-time jobs and taking care of grandma when you're at your excuses." Diane snapped. "Always excuses." Ethan pushed off the fridge and strolled closer, like this was entertainment. "Face it, Willow, you're not like me. You don't have the drive." I stared at him, the same Ethan who'd dropped out of college twice and still got praised for trying. My voice cracked anyway. "I do have drive. I've been trying." Diane's eyes sharpened. "Trying isn't succeeding, and you never succeed." Silence stretched. My father's phone kept glowing in his hand. Then Diane said the sentence that buried itself into my skin. "You're a failure, Willow, and you're embarrassing this family." Something inside me went cold, not anger at first, just a quiet kind of disbelief. I remember whispering, "I'm your daughter." She didn't blink, then act like someone worth being proud of. That was the night I left with a trash bag of clothes and my folder crushed against my chest, walking into the dark like I was stepping off a cliff. No one followed me, not even Ethan. I built my life out of that cliff. The apprenticeship program was grueling. I woke up before sunrise, took the bus across town, studied until my eyes ached, and went to my night job afterward. I ate cheap noodles, wore the same winter coat 2 seasons in a row, and sometimes cried in the bathroom at work, because my body was tired but my fear was louder. But the fear worked like fuel. The program wasn't glamorous. It was training in a specialized field that most people didn't understand. Risk compliance and investigations for corporate fraud. I liked it because it was precise, because it was truth-based, because nobody could charm their way around facts. My mentor, Nina, was a sharp, elegant woman with steel gray hair and a voice that could make a room go quiet. On my first day, when I apologized for asking too many questions, Nina held my gaze and said, Never apologize for being hungry. People only try to starve what they can't control. I carried that sentence like armor. By the end of the year, I was certified. By the end of the second, I had an entry-level role at a firm that worked with banks and companies to uncover financial misconduct. By the third, I'd been promoted into a role I wasn't even sure I deserved. And still, my family didn't know. I didn't post about it. I didn't send updates. I didn't call. Not out of spite, at least not at first, but because I knew exactly how they would react. Diane would suddenly act supportive, like she'd been my biggest fan all along. Ethan would find a way to make it about him. Mark would ask about money like that was the only language he spoke. And I wasn't ready to be their trophy after being their punching bag. So I let them think what they wanted. It was peaceful, until that invitation. On the day of the engagement dinner, I stood in front of my mirror in my small apartment and looked at my reflection like I was meeting an old version of myself. I didn't look like the girl who left with the trash bag. My hair was longer now, shinier. My eyes had a steadiness, the faint scar near my eyebrow courtesy of Ethan shoving me into a doorframe during a childhood accident was still there, but it looked less like damage and more like history. I wasn't going to the dinner to beg for respect. I was going because the invitation felt like a test. And I didn't run from tests anymore. Their house looked exactly the same. Same trimmed hedges, same porch light that never seemed warm, same feeling that the air around it was full of judgment. When I rang the bell, Diane opened the door and stared at me like she was measuring how much I'd improved. "Well," she said, lips pursed, "at least you didn't come in jeans." "Good to see you too," I replied. Her smile was thin. "Don't be dramatic. Come in." Inside, everything smelled like expensive candles and forced perfection. The dining table was set with crystal glasses and folded napkins shaped like swans. Ethan came down the stairs mid-laugh, adjusting his watch like he was already a husband. He spotted me, and his grin widened. "Wow," he said, dragging the word out. "Willow actually showed up. I was invited." He stepped closer and lowered his voice, the way he did when he wanted to sound superior. "Just try not to make tonight about you, okay? Chloe's family is here." I looked him up and down. "Don't worry, I know how to be invisible. You all trained me." His smile faltered for half a second. Then, he laughed like I'd told a joke. "Same old Willow," he said. I didn't correct him. The guests were already gathered: Chloe's parents, a couple of Ethan's friends, and Chloe herself in a pale blue dress, glowing like someone who'd never been told she was unworthy. Chloe was beautiful, yes, but it was her posture that caught me, straight-backed, attentive, like she was always calculating the room. Her smile didn't quite touch her eyes. When she turned and saw me, her expression changed so fast it was like watching a mask slip. Her eyes locked on my face, her lips parted, and for a moment, she didn't breathe. I recognized that look. Not admiration, not jealousy. Recognition. Chloe's hand tightened around her wine glass. She took a small step forward, then stopped as if her body had decided it wasn't safe. "Hi," I said calmly. "I'm Willow, Ethan's sister." Ethan beamed beside her, clueless. "Yep, that's her." Chloe didn't look at him. She stared at me like I was a headline she'd hoped would never print. Then she whispered, barely audible, "That can't be you." The room kept moving around, laughter, clinking glasses, Diane talking too loudly, but Chloe's voice landed like a stone in water. I tilted my head. "Do we know each other?" Chloe swallowed hard. "No, I mean yes, not personally, but I've seen you." Ethan chuckled. "Chloe's probably seen you in some family pictures. Mom's got them everywhere." Chloe's eyes flicked to him with something like panic. "No," she said sharply, "not pictures." And right then, my gut told me something was very, very wrong. Dinner was served. We sat, and I ended up across from Chloe, with Ethan at her side and Diane practically vibrating with excitement. Diane raised her glass to Ethan and Chloe. "Finally, a real match." Chloe's mother laughed politely, but her father's expression was stiff. I noticed it. Diane didn, single quotes T. Chloe lifted her glass a second late, as if she was doing it because she had to. Ethan squeezed her hand under the table. "You okay, babe?" Chloe forced a smile. Yeah, her eyes kept drifting back to me. Diane started her favorite sport, public storytelling. "So Chloe," she said sweetly, "did Ethan tell you about Willow's phase?" Ethan's grin widened. "Oh my God." My stomach tightened. "Don't." Diane waved a hand like I was an interruption. She was always imaginative, thought she could do big things. But some people just aren't built for success. But some people just aren't built for success. Chloe's fork paused mid-air. Diane continued, enjoying herself. She tried a bunch of jobs. Nothing stuck. Then she ran off, blamed us for her lack of direction. I felt heat rise in my face, but I kept my voice steady. That's not what happened. Mark finally looked up. Willow, don't start. You always make things uncomfortable. Ethan leaned back, smug. Yeah, just smile and eat. Chloe's knuckles turned white around her fork. She stared at Diane like she couldn't believe what she was hearing, and in that moment, something inside me clicked. This wasn't just about me. Chloe wasn't reacting like a casual acquaintance. She was reacting like someone who knew the truth about something, and was terrified I knew it too. Halfway through dinner, Chloe's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it and flinched. I caught the screen reflection for a split second. A calendar reminder titled, Meeting NDA Review. Interesting. Chloe pushed back her chair abruptly. Excuse me, I need some air. Ethan frowned. Chloe, I'll be back, she snapped, then softened it quickly. Sorry, I'll be right back. She rushed toward the hallway. I didn't even think. I stood. I'll check on her. Diane's eyes narrowed. Don't cause trouble. I smiled politely. I'll try not to embarrass the family. That shut her up. I found Chloe near the back door, one hand on the frame like she needed to hold herself upright. When she heard me, she spun around, eyes wide. You, she said, voice trembling. Why are you here? I was invited, I replied. Same as you. Chloe let out a shaky laugh that wasn't humor. No, I mean why are you in this house? With them. I studied her carefully. What do you know about me? Chloe's throat bobbed. I work for a law firm. Not as a lawyer, as support staff. I file documents. I've seen things. I said nothing, letting her continue. She swallowed. My boss represented a man who was being investigated for financial misconduct, fraud, embezzlement, and I saw a report, an investigator's report that had your name. My skin went cold in a familiar way, but this time it wasn't hurt. It was focus. What report? I asked. Chloe shook her head quickly. I shouldn't even be saying this. Chloe, I said gently, look at me. What report? Her eyes filled with tears. It said you were the lead on a case that shut down a whole network. It had your photo, your name, your credentials. I remember because the office was buzzing about you. They said you were relentless. I breathed slowly. And why does that scare you? Chloe's face crumpled. Because that case was connected to. The back door creaked. Ethan stepped into the hallway, his smile already irritated. There you are, he said to Chloe. Then he looked at me. What are you doing? Chloe wiped her face quickly. Nothing. Ethan's eyes flicked between us. You better not be filling her head with your drama. I took a step forward. Ethan, relax, he scoffed. Don't tell me to relax. You're the one who always. Chloe suddenly said, voice sharp as glass. Stop. Ethan froze. What? Chloe stared at him, trembling. Stop talking to her like that. You've been belittling her all night. Ethan blinked like he couldn't compute being corrected. Diane's voice floated from the dining room. Is everything okay? Chloe's eyes darted, panicked. Then she looked at me again, plead. When I understood the twist. Chloe didn't just recognize me. She recognized what I do. And she was afraid I was about to uncover something tied to Ethan. Back at the table, the energy shifted. Chloe was quieter, Ethan louder, Diane more performative to compensate. I watched them like I was watching a case unfold. Ethan kept checking his phone under the table. Mark's jaw was tight. Diane kept steering conversation away from anything that involved finances, careers, or legal stuff. It was almost funny. Almost. At one point, Chloe's father said, politely, so, Ethan, what line of work are you in now? Ethan's smile was too quick. Consulting. Chloe's father nodded. Consulting for what? Ethan's eyes flicked to Diane. Diane jumped in. Oh, he's very busy. Lots of clients, lots of confidential work. I sipped my water and said, softly, confidential work can be dangerous. Ethan shot me a look. What's that supposed to mean? I smiled pleasantly. Nothing, just a thought. Chloe stared at her plate like it might open and swallow her. After dessert, Diane clinked her glass. Time for gifts. Everyone moved toward the living room. I didn't bring a gift bag. I brought something else, something that fit in my clutch. A single business card. My updated business card. I watched Ethan's friends chatter. Chloe's mother took photos. Diane glowed like she'd won a prize. Then Diane turned to me, loud enough for everyone to hear. Willow, you didn't bring a gift? Heads turned. Heat crawled up my neck, but I kept my face calm. I did, I said. Diane's eyes narrowed. Well, where is it? I stepped forward and held out my card, not to Diane, but to Chloe's father first, because he looked like someone who understood power. This is my gift, I said. Chloe's father took it politely. His eyes scanned it. Then his expression changed. He looked up at me, surprised. You work for Hawthorne Risk and Compliance. I nodded. Yes. Chloe sucked in a breath. Diane blinked. What is that, some office job? Chloe's father kept reading, then asked carefully, You're an investigations lead. I saw Chloe's eyes widen even more. Ethan's face tightened. Wait, what? I turned to him, calm and steady. You said I never succeed. I guess you stopped checking. Diane laughed, but it sounded strained. Oh please, titles are meaningless. Chloe's father looked between Diane and Ethan like he was suddenly seeing them in different light, and Chloe looked like she was watching a trap close. Ethan snatched the card from Chloe's father's hand. His eyes scanned it. His face drained of color just like Chloe's had earlier. He swallowed. This is real. I tilted my head. Why wouldn't it be? His mouth opened, then closed. I watched Diane's smile wobble. I watched Mark sit up straighter. And I watched Chloe squeeze her hands together like she was trying not to panic. That's when the final piece slid into place. Ethan wasn't just marrying Chloe. He was marrying into a family that cared about reputation. And he had something to hide. The reveal didn't come from me. It came from Chloe's father. He cleared his throat and said, Chloe, sweetheart, you told us Ethan's business was fully verified. Chloe's face went pale. Dad, I ran a basic check. Her father continued, voice controlled. The company address is a mailbox. There are no filings matching the name. Ethan, what exactly do you do? The room went silent. Diane laughed too loudly. That's ridiculous. Of course it's legitimate. Ethan's eyes darted around like a cornered animal. It's complicated. Chloe's father stood up slowly. No, it's either legitimate or it's not. Ethan snapped. Why are you interrogating me? Chloe finally spoke, voice trembling. Because I found documents. Ethan, everyone froze. Chloe's eyes filled with tears. I found names, accounts, transfers. I didn't want to believe it. I thought it was a mistake. Ethan's face twisted. Chloe, shut up. Chloe flinched. And that did something to me. Because I recognized that flinch. It was the flinch of someone who'd been trained to stay quiet. I stepped forward, voiced low but clear. Don't talk to her like that. Ethan spun toward me, furious. This is your fault. You always ruin everything. Diane pointed at me. Willow, I knew it. You came here to sabotage him. Mark barked. Enough. Chloe's father's voice thundered. No, enough. We're leaving. Chloe's mother grabbed her purse, trembling. Chloe stood, tears spilling now, looking broken. Ethan reached for her arm. Chloe, wait. Chloe yanked away. Don't touch me. She turned to me, voice shaking. Is it true? The report I saw was that you... I nodded once. Yes, Chloe whispered. Then, you know how to find the truth. I looked at her, and something in my chest softened. Yes. Ethan's eyes went wild. You can't, you won't. I didn't need to threaten him. I didn't need to gloat. Because the real revenge wasn't me destroying him. It was the truth. Stepping into the light while everyone watched. And my family had built their whole identity on appearances. Now, the mask was cracking. Chloe's father led them to the door. Chloe paused at the threshold, turned back, and looked at Ethan like she was trying to remember why she ever loved him. Then she looked at Diane. You knew, she said quietly. Diane's face hardened. I don't know what you think you know. Chloe's voice broke. You knew he wasn't legitimate. You just wanted him married to someone wealthy. Diane's silence was answer enough. Chloe left. The door shut. The house suddenly felt smaller. Ethan stood in the middle of the living room, breathing hard like he'd been punched. Diane turned to me with eyes blazing. You did this, she hissed. I laughed once, bitter but calm. No, Diane. He did this. You just helped. Mark's face was pale. Willow, is any of that true? I looked at my father, really looked at him. You didn't ask me where I went when I left. You didn't ask what I did to survive. You only ask questions when it affects you. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Ethan stepped toward me, voice low. If you say anything, I held up a hand. I don't have to say anything, Ethan. He froze. I leaned in slightly, because Chloe already saw the documents, her father already ran checks, and now they'll do what people like them always do when they feel embarrassed. Ethan's voice cracked. Willow, please. That word please from him felt almost unreal. I stared at my brother, the golden child who'd watched me leave with nothing and never once reached for me. Then, I said, softly, remember when you told me I wasn't built for success? He swallowed. I said, I just wasn't built to succeed here. I said, I just wasn't built to succeed here. I walked to the front door, my heart pounding, not from fear but from release. Diane called after me, voice sharp, don't you walk out like you're better than us. I paused with my hand on the knob and turned back. I'm not better than you, I said evenly. I'm just free. Then I left. The cold night air hit my face like a blessing. A week later, Chloe called me. I almost didn't answer. I didn't know what she wanted from me, but when I picked up, her voice was soft. Willow, it's Chloe. I sat on my couch, listening. Hi, she exhaled shakily. I left him. My parents are helping me untangle everything, but I wanted to say thank you. I frowned. I didn't do anything. Yes, you did, she said. You reminded me that the truth matters, and you stood up when he tried to silence me. I swallowed. My throat burned unexpectedly. I know that silence. Chloe was quiet for a moment. Then she said, your family was wrong about you. I stared at the wall, blinking hard. I know, and I did. Finally, I truly did. Months later, I heard through the grapevine that Ethan was under investigation for misrepresentation and financial fraud. Diane tried to spin it as a misunderstanding. Mark stopped calling altogether. And me, I kept building my life. I kept being hungry. I kept being relentless. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because I refused to suffer again, just to make them comfortable. That's the thing about revenge stories people don't always tell you. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming so solid, so unshakable, that the people who tried to break you can't even recognize you anymore. If you've ever been told you weren't good enough by family, by friends, by anyone who should have loved you, remember this. Their opinion isn't your destiny. If this story hit home, tap like, subscribe for more revenge stories, and tell me in the comments, what would you do if the people who doubted you suddenly needed you the most?